Go over the Intro to Zoology Notes Part 2, which focuses on the essential functions of animals. So, this is what animals do to survive. The animals are going to carry out the following essential functions to keep themselves alive and continue their species on forward. So, the first step is feed. They've got to eat something, they've got to be able to respire or get oxygen in. They need to circulate the nutrients, and then they need to excrete waste. They've got to respond to external stimuli or their environment, and then they're going to need some kind of movement or support, like structural support inside their body, like we have a skeleton kind of support. And then they've got to be able to reproduce, or they wouldn't be a species anymore. All right. So now we're going to go into each of these essential functions more in depth. All of them except for the last one will be in this set of notes, and then the last one will be with the part 3 notes. All right. So first up is feeding. Feeding is the process by which animals obtain food. You probably already knew that. It kind of is common sense. So with feeding, the specialization of organisms towards a specific food source is one of the major causes of evolution of form and function. And these are going to be just some examples of that evolution that we've seen. So it could be that their mouth parts or their teeth have evolved to be adapted to certain types of food. For instance, in some whales, they have baleen instead of teeth, and that's an adaptation for them to be able to eat the kind of food that they need to eat to survive. It can lead to a distinct form of beaks in birds, such as hummingbirds have that really long, skinny beak in order to get nectar from flowers. If it wasn't quite long enough or wasn't shaped right, then they couldn't get the nectar that they need, and that would cause them to die off. Right? It could lead to specialized claws or other appendages for apprehending or killing, such as fingers in primates. It can cause changes in body color for facilitating camouflage disguise, setting traps for prey, and things like that. And it can cause changes in the digestive system. So, for instance, the stomach of herbivores has evolved to have certain types of gut bacteria in it to break down the plants, right? They've actually seen in pandas, they're actually designed to eat more meat products than plant products, despite that they eat a lot of bamboo, right? So we can classify animals by what they eat. We're going to go over a handful of them. This is not all of them. There are way more out there, but I just figured we'd focus on some of the main ones. So first up is carnivores. Obviously, they're going to be meat eaters. Herbivores are plants. Omnivores eat meat and plants. Detritivores feed on plant and animal remains and other dead matter called detritus, which does include poop. And then insectivores eat only insects. Piscivores eat only fish. Frugivores eat fruit. Granivores eat seeds. And nectivores eat nectar. Right? So these terms will get brought up again throughout the year a little bit. And as you research different animals, you'll identify your animals using these terms quite a bit. Right? Then we can talk about. Now we're going to talk about the different modes of ingestion. Sorry, I can't talk. There are many modes of feeding that animals exhibit, and these are just a handful of them. Again, we're not going to go over all of them. So first up, they might be filter feeders, and this means they obtain nutrients from particles suspended in the water, such as oysters and mussels, which is this picture here. This is water pulled from the bay, and I forget where this picture was taken. Not in Georgia, I do know that. But anyway, they have this like dirty looking water, and then they add a bunch of mussels to it, and then they filter out all of that grossness, and now there's pretty clear water in there. All right. Substrate feeders, these guys are going to eat material, either dirt or wood, as they burrow through it, such as earthworms and termites. Then we have fluid feeding, which are going to obtain nutrients by consuming other organisms' fluids. So like aphids pierce the body of a plant or animal and withdraw fluids from it. So kind of gross. And then there's going to be ingestive eaters, which use a mouth to ingest food, which this is going to be a majority of animals. So like tapeworms are going to do this, and mammals are going to do this as well. So these are just, again, a few of different ways animals can feed. So next essential function is respiration. Respiration is the process of releasing energy from food, and this will take place inside the cells of the body. The process of respiration involves taking in oxygen in the cells, using it for releasing energy by burning food, and then eliminating the waste products, which are going to be carbon dioxide and water, from the body. Respiration is an essential function for life because it provides energy for carrying out all of life processes which are necessary to keep organisms alive. So there are many modes or ways that animals can undergo respiration. These are again are just going to be a few examples of this. The first is some animals can actually absorb oxygen from the air through their skin. And they can remove carbon dioxide the same way of releasing it through their skin. For instance, earthworms do this. The second way is gills. That's probably one that you've heard of before. Gills are a respiratory organ which extract oxygen that's dissolved in water and take away carbon dioxide from the body. And fish are going to do that. Then there's sphericals, which are tiny holes connected to air tubes called tracheae, which are the respiratory organs. And for instance, grasshoppers have these. And then the last one is one you're hopefully familiar with because you possess them, are lungs. These are a pair of breathing organs located within the chest, which remove carbon dioxide from the body and bring oxygen to the blood. And mammals, of course, and many other animals have lungs. Right? Next essential function is circulation. The circulatory system is used to transport nutrients and gases through the body. The circulatory system varies from very simple systems in invertebrates, and then it gets much more complex in vertebrates. So for simple circulation, it's generally the diffusion of nutrients through cell membranes. For instance, in Porphyria and Cnidaria, that first unit we're going to go over, they have a very simple of just kind of like cell transport type of circulation. Then we get more complex, and then within that complex circulatory system, we have what are considered open circulatory systems and closed circulatory systems. Open circulatory systems have an elongated beating heart that pushes hemolymph, which is very similar to blood, through the body, and muscle contractions will help move the fluids around. Some animals will have developed arterial-like vessels to help push the blood through their bodies as well, but not all of them do. A lot of arthropods, which include insects, are going to have open circulatory systems. Then we have closed circulatory systems, which have the blood closed at all times within vessels of different sizes and wall thicknesses throughout the body. The blood will be pumped by a heart through vessels and does not normally fill body cavities. And all vertebrates are going to have closed circulatory systems. The next essential function is excretion, which is the removal of metabolic waste from the body of an organism. Metabolism produces useful products as well as toxic byproducts. The major excretory products are carbon dioxide, excess water, and nitrogenous compounds like ammonia, urea, or uric acid. Examples of excretion of just some different ways some animals excrete their waste. For instance, hydra will just throw out solid waste through their mouth, so they basically are just throwing up their waste. And in invertebrates, the main organisms' excretion and maintenance of water balance are the kidneys. Now, obviously, in mammals, we have other organisms that help as well, but kidneys help with the water. And then also for humans, our skin and many other animals' skin as well will have sweat glands through which will excrete small amount of water, urea, and salts. All right, the next essential function, number 5, is response, and this is a reaction to external stimuli. So this is like the nervous system. So there's going to be nerve cells that hook up together to form the nervous system. As we go through the different phylums, it's going to get more and more advanced as we go on. So we'll start with some very, very basic stuff, which some animals really lack. Like, they don't even have a true nervous system. They just have some minor things that are help them respond to external stimuli. And then as we get up to work our way to vertebrates, we're going to have that more complex system with brains and a spinal cord and all that kind of stuff. So again, it varies in structure and complexity throughout the animal kingdom. Some examples of some different animals, for instance, jellyfish are going to lack a true brain, and instead they're going to have a system of separate but connected nerve cells, which are called neurons, called a nerve net. Flatworms are going to have both a central nervous system, which is abbreviated CNS, made up of a small brain, which brains in quotes because it's not like a brain like we've got. It's not as complex, but it's still kind of like a brain. And then they actually have 2 nerve cords. And then they also have a peripheral nervous system, which is abbreviated PNS, containing a system of nerves extended throughout the body. Then for vertebrates, our nervous systems are more complex. They're centralized and they're specialized. They have a central nervous system that contains the brain and a spinal cord. and a peripheral nervous system made up of the peripheral sensory and motor nerves. All right. So you can see just from jellyfish to vertebrates just how different things are. All right. And the sixth thing, the movement and support. Some animals are not going to move. They are going to be sessile. They're going to remain attached to something. But majority of animals are going to be motile, or meaning they can move, and they're going to have muscles or some muscle type tissue that allows them to move around. The ones that are sessile are going to have some way of, normally they're going to be in the water. They're always going to be in the water, and they're going to have some way of pushing water through their body to carry nutrients through their body. For support, some organisms are going to have a hydrostatic skeleton, meaning their muscles are going to surround a fluid-filled body cavity that supports the muscles. Some animals are going to have an exoskeleton, which is an outer body covering, and then endoskeletons are going to have structural support inside the body. Right? So we're going to go over the last essential function in part 3, but this is all for part 2. Please let me know if you have any questions.